I'm Professor Benita Austin, and I'm joined today by Amy Haas, one of this year's Goff Scholars. I teach the Goff Scholars course, and we're going to talk about how the program has developed over time and the things that it has done to help Amy further her own career goals. So let me introduce you to Amy Haas. She's one of our top students in the business school, and I've had the pleasure of being her professor for a couple of other classes. So we're going to just talk back and forth about the program and what it's done for her and what she thinks it can do for students in the future. But we're going to start out with a little bit of background. So Amy, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Bonita. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Ha. I'm currently a marketing major and an information systems minor at the University of Utah. And as Bonita said, I am currently a Goff Fellows in the Goff Scholars program, and it's been a fantastic experience. So as Bonita said, we're going to dive into a few questions and answers so you can get to know a little bit more about Goff Scholars. And let's start with asking Bonita a few questions. Can you please tell us how Goff Scholars came about and what makes it unique?
Sure, thanks, Amy. So the Goff Scholars class, which originally was called Goff Fellows, we changed the name a couple of years ago, is a really terrific program. And the way that it started is pretty interesting. So Dean Taylor Randall, a lot of you know Taylor, had been working with one of our most distinguished alumni, Greg Goff, who at the time was the chairman and CEO of Tesoro Oil, which is one of the largest oil producers in the world. They later changed their name to Andeavor, and then subsequently, about 2 years ago, were acquired by Marathon Oil. So Greg Goff is a very distinguished alumni from the University of Utah. And one of the things that Greg really wanted to accomplish, he wanted to give back to the university, but he wanted to help young people really develop their leadership skills, particularly their strategic leadership skills. And as far as Greg's concerned, the earlier you can start working on leadership skills, the better. And so he was very interested in having us create a program and a strategic leadership center to help educate especially young people, undergraduates, on how they could develop their strategic leadership skills and why those are important to have in the future. So Dean Randall and Greg Goff have been talking for a couple of years, also with my former department chair, who is a distinguished strategy and entrepreneurship scholar, Dr. Todd Zinger. They've been talking for a while, several years, about how we could get strategic leadership into our curriculum as a business school. And so we got together in the summer of 2016, and we found out from Greg what he thought was really important. And they asked me to create this course, which we called Goff Fellows at the time. And Dean Randall supported it with some very generous scholarships, which then later Greg Goff supported through scholarships through the Strategic Leadership Center. So we kicked off with that program. What makes it so different than other programs is the fact that students like Amy get to work with students from all over the university. The first year that we had the program, first 2 years, we just had business students, but we expanded that to include any discipline in the University of Utah. So Amy has an opportunity to work with people that are majoring in psychology, or maybe we've had people that have majored in biomechanical engineering. We've had physics majors, philosophy majors, international studies, political science. So when Amy's on a team addressing a strategic challenge for an organization, the other members of her team come from very different backgrounds, and that is the way the real world of work is. And so she gets an opportunity to work on multidisciplinary program teams. And she also gets a chance to address real strategic questions and opportunities for different organizations. We call them our community partners, and the Business Career Services Center plus the Goff Strategic Leadership Center helps source those projects. Those projects are free for our community partners. So they give us great projects because they really just don't have any downside. So students get to work on these really interesting projects, and we've had a great hit rate. The organizations we've worked with since fall term 2016, many of those organizations have adopted the students' recommendations and put them into practice, which is fantastic, or taken some of the research that students have done and then implemented maybe another business idea that they thought of after the students presented their ideas, and launched new businesses that have been really successful. So that's what makes it so unique. Students have a real impact. And there's one more thing I have to add. They do everything. I do nothing. Every recommendation, and Amy, yeah, you're saying that, Amy, but every recommendation the students come up with, all of the work that they do is 100% their work. I ask the questions, they deliver the answers. So they take on completely unstructured problems, which is way different than a traditional college class. Nothing wrong with those classes. That's a great foundation for you. But as you go forward, you have to figure out how to tackle problems. And I've joked with the students frequently, and maybe we'll do this someday. I've said, if we had a t-shirt for the program, my slogan would be, it's the struggle. And that's what students do. They struggle and they work on problems and they come up with great stuff. And organizations have really, really appreciated it. So that's kind of the background of the program.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bonita, for a lot of great information about the program, a little bit of the history. And yes, I agree, it is a struggle, but it's a great struggle because we get to learn so much from the experience in Goff Scholars. So let's get a little bit into details on how the class is structured. So can you give us some more details on that?
Yeah, so this I think is really seriously awesome. I had thought originally that I would set up the class like a year of the program for the first project. I asked students what ideas they had about how the class should be structured, and they came up with such a great structure, we still use it. So this is the way it works. So students in the Goff Scholars program will tackle 4 problems throughout the academic year. So it's a fall term and a spring term. And each time they do a project, they're going to be on a different team. So this time, Amy will be on a team of 3 or 4 students. And then the next project, she'll be on a team that is the same size, but it'll be different students. And for each project, 1 student on every team is a project manager. So what the students' teams do is they come up with their own solutions. For most projects, every team does the entire project themselves. Every now and then we have a divide and conquer type of project, like one we're working on now, because it works better for that situation. But what happens is the student teams will do presentations in class. It's a little bit of trial by fire. So I ask a lot of questions. I have some terrific TAs that were former Goff Scholars. They ask questions. Sometimes we're joined by Ruchi Watson, the director of the Strategic Leadership Center, or Katie Abbey, the director of Business Career Services, the assistant dean in charge of Business Career Services. And so the students present, we ask questions, and then what happens, this is really different. The project managers get together, 1 from each team, and they decide what's going to be presented to the client, our community partner organization. And then the project managers will work out what needs to be further developed, which ideas are the best, and they present them to senior management. So, and that lots of times that includes founders, but it could be CEOs. It's everybody in top management for that organization. And so that is the structure. Then the next time they do a project, they're on a different team, and we have different project managers. So every student has the opportunity to lead a team and present to senior management.
Awesome. Thanks, Bonita. And yes, I agree. I really like the structure. And I think that from my experience, it has worked really well. And we all get to be project managers as well as team members, so we can support each other in our work. And as you said earlier, we have a lot of projects to work on, right? So one of the most notable projects that your students have worked on is the El Mirador Project. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, this was a really great project that our assistant dean, Andrea Thomas, sent our way. She had gone down to Guatemala with students, and she visited El Mirador, which is the largest site of Mayan civilization in the world. And it is covered up with jungle. It's about almost 2 million acres of tropical forest that stretches mostly in Guatemala, but goes over the Mexican border as well. And so it's this really rich cultural heritage that people on both sides of that country border want to preserve. It also is incredibly biodiverse. And so, fun fact, there's more jaguars per square mile there than there is any place else in the world. I don't want to like experience that personally where you hear a jaguar, but there's a lot of them down there. And so Andrea had visited there and met the archaeologist in charge of that program. And, the problem for them is that there is a lot of encroachment on that tropical forest, which is hiding those Mayan ruins by drug traffickers. And so some of the routes now go down into Guatemala, and it's a common practice for the forest to be burned, roads to be put in illegally, forests to be burned illegally. And then that creates a serious problem for the environment, obviously. They lose a lot of artifacts, and then they tend to graze cattle on that burned forest land. So what the head archaeologist asked us to do was to come up with a way to basically preserve the El Mirador Project basin through tourism. And so what the students did, which is so incredible, is they figured out how to create a highly differentiated premium tourist attraction in a place where the biggest pyramid in the world is there in terms of the height of it, the size of it, and it's 50 miles into the jungle. So there's literally no water, there's no sewage treatment, there's no electricity, there are no facilities at all. So they figured out how to create this incredible tourist attraction and also how to work with local people to provide them with the opportunities that they want. So for example, healthcare and better education for their children, higher paying jobs, and opportunity to open their own businesses. And so it was a really, really neat project. And I'm proud to say that the students' ideas were presented to the president of Guatemala. And so we're hopeful that once you come out of the COVID crisis, that the country will start investing in building that premium tourist site. So it was really, really difficult project. They did 10 years worth of financial forecasts, both from an operating standpoint and a capital budget standpoint. They figured out how to get power, water, sewage treatment in there, how to house visitors that wanted to stay. So we went with, they went with tree houses, which I think is super cool. And so they did a lot of really neat things on that project. It was very difficult. They created a beautiful brand book, and they had a lot of great ideas about how to market the opportunity also to potential tourists.
Yeah, thanks, Bonita. I also had a chance to hear Bonita talk about this project really briefly in class, and we were all really impressed with the impact that these students made to help this organization, right? And that is why I love the opportunities that Goff Scholars bring to us so much, because not all the time that you get opportunities to work with real organizations and businesses, right? Awesome. And then one last question we would love to ask you. You've mentioned in class that you have seen significant improvements in our projects throughout the year. So could you share some more details on that? And what would you say are the biggest changes that students have made throughout the program in general?
So what I've experienced is that there is kind of a pattern that happens in the Goff Scholars program. And so what I try to start out with is a project that is relatively straightforward. You don't have to figure out a lot with regard to cause and effect. You don't have to do like root cause analysis to figure out what the problem is or what the strategic opportunity is for that organization. So I try to start out with that. And what I see is that because I do not structure the problems for students, I help them figure out how to structure it themselves. There's honestly a lot of panic around that first project. And I say this every year, and it is so true. Amy, if I gave you the first project we did this year that everybody was kind of honestly freaking out about and saying, oh my gosh, it's so hard, wouldn't you think it would be really easy now?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. We were also lost and scared.
Yeah, it's so scary because this is the first time where you will be presenting to senior management, and it really matters what you say. And so I also think there's a little bit of pressure because the program has a really good reputation and nobody wants to let anybody down. And so what happens is you have a lot of panic initially, and then as students get projects under their belts and they build skills, we do work on skill building in class, they can take on bigger and bigger challenges. One of the things that I've observed about this year's class in particular is that I have honestly never had a class that was so good at collaborating. This year's class has blown me away with how great their teamwork skills have become. And I've said this to you guys before, Amy, you know I hate this. Oh, I hate this so much. The wisdom of crowds, I hate that. I've always been paid to be an expert, so I hate that it's true, that if you get a lot of people involved in something, you're going to get better solutions. But that is what I have seen. And, you know, all joking aside, this teamwork and collaboration is so important. It's important in your career. It doesn't matter what your field is, you will work on a team. You're going to be a scientist? Yeah, we don't really have the lone scientist anymore. Every scientist works on a team, and it's really important to be able to collaborate. You want to be in corporate finance? For sure, you're going to be on a team. You want to do something in engineering? You're going to be on a team. It doesn't matter what your major is and what you're going to do when you get out of school. You will problem solve. You will find problems. You will work on multidisciplinary teams. And it is very unusual anymore to have a career in which you work by yourself. There's really not very many of those jobs anymore, because the problems, like you guys have learned this year, the problems that organizations are facing or the opportunities they face are so complicated that one person just doesn't have all the answers, and you just get better answers with more people involved. And so when I look at the progress throughout the year, that's what I see. I see more confidence. I see better presentations. I see much better slides. I have students are a lot more prepared to answer difficult questions. They've understood that this is not a quote unquote school project. These projects you're essentially asking an organization to write a check and take those recommendations. Maybe writing a check is changing your positioning, or writing a check is building a new factory or getting into a different country or opening up a new business. And so that's what I see. I see a lot of personal accountability, great teamwork, and just overall improvements in confidence and problem solving. And that happens every year. And this year's class, so good at collaboration. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Bonita, for so many kind words. And it's great to know that you have seen significant changes and improvements that we have made throughout the year. And yes, we can feel it, but it's great to hear, someone else that we're not involved directly in projects that could see the progress that we have made. So thank you. And all thanks to you, you made us work so hard. And without that push, we wouldn't be here today, right? And yeah, I would love to say thank you again on behalf of our class.
I tell you guys this all the time. I love you guys. I think it's great to work with so many highly motivated students. And I love working with undergraduates. Don't tell my grad students, but undergraduate students. And you guys have a real impact. Just on the Mirador Project, our estimates are that would positively impact the Guatemalan economy by $2 billion. That's a lot. That's a lot of jobs for people. That's a lot of healthcare and education. And also, one of the things that's cool that's happened this year is that we had a request from 5 years ago. One of the very first organizations we worked with asked the Goff Scholars to take on a new challenge for them because they had such a good experience with our very first class in golf. And then this year's class carried on that tradition. And yeah, our community partner loved your recommendations. So that is really neat because they used the recommendations from our previous class to open a new business. And I think they're going to do it again. They loved your ideas. So it's really, really cool to work with you guys. And I want to ask you a few questions, if that's okay, Amy.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you think that being in the Goff Scholars program has helped you progress towards what you want to achieve in your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that this goes along with what you have shared earlier, how you have seen so much progress in our skills throughout the year, right? So personally, being a Goff Scholar has helped me network and connect with so many amazing people, from my team members to professionals like you, Ruchi, and a lot of guest speakers that you have brought to our classes to speak to us and share their experience. And then I also learn and know a little bit more about consulting, which is basically what we do right now, but in a junior level, right? So yeah, consulting is my new career interest now. And I think that it'll be a great path for me as well as a lot of Goff fellows to follow. And then I can see that I have become a better leader. And this is something that I have not really experienced before because changes that we have made are not major enough for us to see. But within the past year that I have been a Goff Scholar, I have read so many papers, business review, Harvard Business Review articles, and learned from everyone around me. So I could see a change in my leadership skills that I could apply to other experiences in other organizations, classes, and work, which is amazing. And then you mentioned earlier that our collaboration skills are on point this this year. So I saw that as well. I have improved my teamwork skill set, and everyone in Goff Scholars are really driven. And this is something that I see different in other classes because in projects in Goff Scholars, everyone wants to contribute and they speak up, they would love to share their ideas, and they want the best for the team, which is really amazing. And right now, being a project manager, I get to learn even more about leadership, and I love that feeling of uplifting everyone in the team. It's just a great feeling. And then you said that we provide solutions to problem, right? So that helped me as well as other fellows develop a problem solution mindset, which is really important in any career path. And then time management, project management are really important as well, which I have learned being a Goff Scholar. And then in general, we just gained a variety of skill set that can be transferred to any career opportunities in the future.
So let me ask you about being a project manager, Amy. So one of the things that I think is really interesting to see in students over the course of the year is that it's not that every person in the program is a type A person. There are, there's a healthy dose of type A people in the program. But I think that you guys have been on teams where team leadership meant you, Amy, you want to get a good grade. And so you're going to do whatever it takes to get a good grade, even if your teammates don't. And so then it's very easy to fall in love with your own ideas. But what I see on the project managers teams is that you guys have to learn to compromise. Can you just talk through how that works from your perspective?
Yes, for sure. And I had some chances to talk to you as well as other fellows, like my classmates, about this already. And I think that from being a Goff Scholar, we learn how to listen to others effectively. So we need to hear what everyone has to say. And we should get a consensus among everyone in the team, making sure that we're all on the same page, and we will get to convergent thinking after divergent thinking. So at the end, we can get the best solutions as a consensus, the best option that everyone chose. So we can get to, one same idea at the end.
Yeah, and I think that that is a really fun part of the class to me is when they turn you guys loose on divergent thinking, which is coming up with as many solutions as possible, but not, evaluating them. That is really, really fun for me. So it could be something crazy, right? It could be like transporter beams. That will solve our problem. We don't have that technology, obviously. But I find that to be a really fun part is to turn you guys loose. And I'm so impressed by how creative everyone is. And I've had plenty of students say to me, oh, I'm not very creative. Yes, they are. They totally are. They just have to get into the right mindset. So I like that comment you made about divergent and convergent thinking. That's awesome. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, why do you think if someone came to you, another student, which I know they do lots of times because you are one of the leaders in the business school, when another student comes to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about joining or applying to join the Goff Scholars program, should I join it? And if I should, why should I join it? What do you think about it?
Yes, my first answer would be yes, definitely join it because as you mentioned earlier, right? This is not like any other class project because we get to have hands-on experience with a lot of organizations and businesses. And also networking is a huge factor of this program because we get to work with a lot of classmates from multiple majors, like not just business, right? And right now we're working with political science major, marketing majors, Kwamo majors. Um,
International studies.
yes, and there's so many of them. So there's a variety of skill sets and experience. So you don't need to be a business student to apply for Goff Scholars. And then while you are a Goff Scholars, you get to learn a lot about leadership, business analytics, marketing, financial forecasts, so much more. And we get to have hands-on experience, as we said earlier, and you get access to Harvard Business Review articles. And you, Bonita, you have chosen a lot of great articles for us to read that are applicable to what we are doing and what we can do in the future. And then in general, we can discover our own potentials, which is really important as youngsters in college. And there's also a golf club that you can join to network. And there's also a LinkedIn alumni group for golf. So you can connect with a lot of different professionals, even after school, after you graduate. And you get to learn from you, Ruchi, and many other great educators and coaches. So I think that it would be a fantastic opportunity for anyone at the U to join.
What was your favorite project this year? So we lots of times we'll have, like this year, we've alternated between projects for profit and for nonprofit organizations. So the students did a project for Travel Resorts of America at the beginning of the year. Then they did that was on essentially figuring out how to get millennials to use their product, which was great, or their service. And then they did some survey research for Utah Golf Association. And this time I mean GOLF, the game golf, on their membership. They did some survey research on members and non-members and their value proposition. And then we did a project for the Campbell Companies, which owns Wheeler Cat, which is the Caterpillar distributor here, on some new business opportunities. And now we're working with a new nonprofit organization started by Matt Garth, and we're trying to help them with their strategic positioning as well as their branding and their website. So what's your favorite project this year?
Yeah, that's a hard question, Bonita. I would say that I would need to go with the Campbell Companies and Matt Goff's organization projects, because the Campbell project was really, really hard and challenging. Yeah, because it was a big project and we wanted to know so many details that we couldn't really get answers to, but that helped us work with uncertainty. And also, since it was a big project, we got to work a lot with financial forecast, learning from their financial documents. And in the end, I think that the feeling was really awesome that we finished the project successfully. And we came up with a lot of great ideas from all of the teams and got to present that to the Campbell Companies. And it was great to hear their feedback and questions. And I think that they were satisfied with the result. And for the organization that we're working with right now, I really like this project because there's also uncertainty because we were not sure where to go, but now everything is coming together and we're presenting in 1 week. I think that we're coming up with really great ideas that hopefully the organization gets to apply, implement in the future, and succeed soon. And we hopefully can see that that project come true in real life.
I hope so too, because I think you guys have some great ideas. And I got to say, the Campbell Companies were not satisfied. They were ecstatic about how great of a job you guys did. And I think that your recommendations will help them as they continue to explore their opportunities in the future. So I think you guys have been doing a great job. The last thing I wanted to ask you is, what is somebody applies to the Goff Scholars program and is admitted for next year, what advice do you have for them to get ready for fall term?
Oh yeah, I have quite a few advices. So first of all, believe in yourself and your teammates because you are all really great. That's why you're accepted into the program and you get a scholarship, right? So make sure to utilize your skill set and resources. Ask Bonita when you're unsure about anything and ask the professionals because every one of us knows somebody that is great at something that might be really good for the project. So use your connections. And you don't need to be a business student. So don't think that, oh, I'm not a business student. I'm not qualified enough to give my inputs or anything, because we all have unique strengths that can help the project move forward and succeed. And in general, just have a great time and learn as much as possible.
Thanks, Amy. I think those are all really good words of wisdom for incoming Goff Scholars, and I look forward to next year's class and to connecting everybody to the alumni that we have in the program from fall 16 up until spring 21. And we are also starting to get some really good networking opportunities for you guys. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in the fall. Amy, thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with me about the program. And I wish I could clone you. But
Yeah,
everybody else in the class is great too. It's really a terrific group. So thanks very much.
thank you, Bonita. And I look forward to meeting other Golf fellows in the future as well. And let's connect on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely do that. All right, take care, Amy.
Take care, Bonita.